The title of this presentation gives away that I wondered what difference winter makes in a country where everybody cycles anyway. And when I say everybody, I really mean everybody. On this picture you see the Dutch king and queen cycling in Sochi during the Olympic Winter Games in 2014. It wasn't really cold there, but strictly speaking, this too was winter cycling. So let's take you on a little investigation. I have published one video a week on my blog for the last 6 years, and whenever I show mass cycling, there are always people who comment, "Yes, it's nice that so many people cycle in that weather, but what about rain?" So I made a new video and replied, "Yes, what about rain? Rain doesn't stop the Dutch from cycling from A to B. They are using their main form of transport. You need to go to your work every day, so that makes cycling less dependent on the weather." But then people said, "Okay, but what about snow?" Now I must admit, that does make a difference. As you can see, people will ride a bit slower. But you still need to go to work. You still need to get your kids to daycare and school. Again, this is their main means of transport. It is usually more hassle to think of an alternative than to just continue what you are used to do all year long. So yes, many people will cycle, also in these winter conditions. The key point here is that they are cycling from A to B as a viable transport option. To be able to do that, what do you need? Of course you all know that, but it is good to look at it in more detail. First of all, you need a bicycle, one that can be used in all weather conditions. Secondly, you need that bicycle stored at your starting point, usually your home. Then you need a place to store it safely at your end destination, or the point where you transfer to other means of transportation, such as a bus or the train. And perhaps most important, you need good infrastructure between your points A and B to make your ride more attractive than other transport options. What is a good bicycle? In my opinion, that is one that is suitable in all weather conditions. Dutch bikes are of the upright variety, so they can be used by almost anyone. When you buy them, they come complete with everything you need, including storage space. The only thing this woman bought separately are those panniers. The rest was already on her bike. So there is a closed chain case, you have fenders, there is coat protection, your clothes stay clean, you have built-in lights so you never lose them, which are powered by a dynamo. Very reliable, you will never have flat batteries. So this really is a bike that is always ready to use. And yes, with all those features, it is also ready to be used in the snow. Although you see it here and there, home parking on the street in racks is not the best solution. Snow or rain will eventually damage the bikes, even the Dutch sturdy ones, if they are not stolen. But luckily, most of the Dutch live in homes that were built with mandatory bike storage. It has been in the building regulations for over 50 years that new homes must be equipped with indoor bicycle parking space. That can be in the building, such as here, where the extra door next to the front door leads to the bicycle parking unit. But older apartment buildings, such as this one, usually come with little buildings with a number of these small storage units combined. When you look inside them, you see that there is more than enough space to park several bicycles for the whole family. The doors lead directly to the streets, which makes that your bicycle is indeed always ready to use. Outside parking at your destination is of course also not the best solution. So more and more the Dutch are building indoor bicycle parking facilities, especially at destinations that attract a lot of people, such as train stations and shopping areas. And these facilities are of a very high quality. If you pick up your bike here to return home again, It will be there as you left it, ready to use. Then, good cycling infrastructure. We can debate about what that is, but in the Netherlands there is a general consensus that cycling infrastructure is protected or separated where needed and shared where possible. To determine where separation is needed, all Dutch roads and streets were categorized. Main through streets have full physical separation. Collector roads sometimes do, or they have on-street cycle lanes, a visible separation. The people's places, such as the areas where people live, with low volume motor traffic, do not need separation. All those different types of infrastructure must be connected well, with safe junctions and good transitions. This is just one example of a safe junction of an array of junction types the Dutch have at their disposal. And right away you see people of all ages cycling here. This was designed with all possible weather conditions in mind, so it also works in winter. Now you have seen a number of slides with snow already, but is that really what winter conditions are all about in the Netherlands? No, not really. The main thing we experience on a daily basis in the winter and not in the summer is darkness. Second comes rain, which in the cold can become really annoying. Then there are various types of icy conditions, and only in the last place we get snow. So let's go over those conditions quickly and see what you could do about them. In winter we have a lot less light than in summer. It is not so dramatic as in Finland, but when you compare daylight hours for the shortest and the longest day, there is a 9-hour difference. And what is important, these red hours mark the times most people travel. For about 2 months, both morning and evening rush hour are in the dark. You must of course take that into account when you design your streets. That means everything has to be lit well. But it also helps to design with good contrasts. This streetscape was improved for people with reduced eyesight, so they better register where to walk and where the bikes are parked. Poles, posts, bollards, or whatever you call them, are almost always striped in the Netherlands, so you can see them well in different light conditions. And we should really get rid of most of these poles in the cycleways. These newer traffic signs were developed for the colorblind, but as it turned out, everybody benefits from these enhanced contrasts. Everybody can see this better when there is less light or even in the dark of the night. Here is an example of poor contrasts. That left edge of the cycleway becomes almost invisible in the dark, and the same goes for the curb and the gutter. On the right example, we see a far better edge, which also keeps the asphalt better in place. No crumbling of the edge this way, and you can see both edges much better. One-sided accidents are a real problem in the Netherlands, so this is really important. A lot of people think it rains a lot in the Netherlands, but it only rains about 7% of the time. It is no big deal. People simply dress up in rain gear and they cycle anyway. When you provide good drainage out of the way and you make sure the road doesn't have a surface that gets slippery when wet, you are okay. Good rain suits cost only €15, so rain, even in winter, is not really a problem. Now black ice and snow are really a different story. There's frost with potentially icy conditions on about 45 to 60 days per year and snow on about 15 to 25 days, depending on the region. Together that is quite enough to cause a lot of problems for traffic. And as a road manager, you really have to do something about that. This is a Department of Public Works, where they monitor the weather 24/7. This data gives information to determine when salt is taken from this depot to melt the snow and ice in the streets. This is a cleaning vehicle. It has a rotating brush up front, a tank for the mixture of salt and water in the middle, and a spreader at the back. And the width is perfect for a cycleway. Now let's look at it in action. The brush sweeps most of the snow away. The salt spreader sprays the mixture of water and salt onto the cycleway, and that almost instantly melts the rest of the snow away. This method works to circa -10 degrees and requires 7 grams of salt per square meter. But which routes are to be treated like that? Well, everything ties together, so that categorization of the streets helps to determine which streets to clear. As you can see, the map of cleared or gritted routes is very similar to the map with main streets. There are even more routes cleared, and those are the main cycle routes. The scale of all this salt spreading or gritting is enormous. This is the city of Leeuwarden. This is the region. And so on. And so on. All that salt is obviously not good for the environment. We are working on other solutions, such as slightly heated entrances to cycle parking facilities, or even entire cycle tracks. There are some innovations in that field, but for now we stick to salt. So after all that work, most of the main routes are okay to use. But remember that we already started with a good cycling environment. Not only the infrastructure was already okay in summer, but also the bikes are fit for all weather and people are used to riding to everyday destinations. I think you cannot have good winter cycling without good summer cycling first. To sum it all up, for winter cycling to be okay, you need a good cycling environment all year long. On top of that, you need to design for the winter conditions well, getting all the details right. But then those details will be beneficial all year long, and for more than just people cycling. Does this all sound too good to be true? If only we could ask these people for their opinion. Oh hey, that's pretty clear. In all seriousness, it is clear that cycling in the Netherlands is a viable transport option in summer and thanks to the efforts of road managers, also in winter.